Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 2, where we are exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. I am your host, Waxela Sananda, and today I have with me Tomorrow. Welcome, Tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Shayla.
Also known as Heidi, so I might use those interchangeably.
For sure, no
But
worries.
today is actually Tomorrow interviewing me, so if that makes sense. So I will be, I want to introduce you and your work, but then we'll be switching and tomorrow we'll be taking the host position. So just so you have a little background on who Tomorrow is, she works in a company called Primal Hacker, and it is biohacking, which is such an incredible thing. And last summit on my season 1 of Alchemy of Ascension, I had Thaddeus, her partner, on, and he talked a lot about kind of the basics of biohacking. And so Tomorrow is, she kind of brings a whole other level of spirituality and Kundalini yoga, and together they do coaching programs. So it's really important for you to get to know her and them. And so I will be also interviewing Tomorrow in her own interview. So watch for that during the course of the Alchemy of Ascension Season 2. And so with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you Tomorrow, and you can take it from here.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Shayla. I'm honored that you are having me host you, and I can't wait to help people get to know you better. So I think
Well, thank you.
Fantastic. So yeah, thank you. All right, so Alchemy of Ascension, exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. So if I were to hear that for the first time, right? Like, what does that mean? Because it's a mouthful, and there's a lot of big words in that sentence alone. So could you just break that down for us and give us a little bit of insight into like what exactly that means and what you're doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Alchemy of Ascension, I will start there. So actually, I'll just start with the word ascension.
Perfect.
So ascension, the way that I use it, is raising your frequency within the human body. So it is, I know biblically in scripture, a lot of people have the idea that ascension is leaving the body, getting out of the body. And it's not that at all. I feel like in modern day ascension, ascension is coming in, bringing more presence, more of your self, your higher self, your bigger self, your self that's connected to the divine into the body. Then that raises the frequency of your presence, of your beingness. That is being here more. And that is ascending your frequency. That's ascension within the context of the human body. And so the alchemy, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say that is so helpful because like the minute you say the word ascension, you automatically like in my brain, I'm an artist and visionary as well. And I'm already like, oh, it's a little body lifting off into, the ethers. And for what you just said, bringing that back into your body and it's the frequency of your body. And I mean, that is so helpful, just grounding that in, because like you said, like we are embodying that intention and that frequency. But when you hear that word, it's so counterintuitive, right? I mean, that's just the visual for me. So I really appreciate that explanation of ascension.
Yeah, I actually like to call it Incension, which came to me during an interview, and I'm like, it's really Incension, not Ascension, the way that I use it, and I feel like modern day teachers use it because we are coming in, we're coming into the body more, we're bringing more of our presence here, and that actually activates our human technology, because these bodies are these amazing technological, physical, biological machines that we get to upgrade with more presence. What makes them run, the fuel that they run on, is spirit. Of course, they run on food, they run on elements, but they run on spirit, the divine presence. And the more of that we have in these bodies, the more we get to become multidimensional. And so that is, for me, becoming multidimensional is the Incension, the bringing more of our light, more of our spirit, more of our divine connection, more of our presence into these bodies, upgrading them, activating them, and allowing our technology, our human tech, to really turn on. And in that process, there are a lot of ways it can be done, but that I'll just say in a nutshell, that is Ascension. And so the Alchemy of Ascension is really, and this is why I named the Summit series this, because it's taking all of these people, all of these different practitioners that have their own way of practicing ascension, of becoming more, more present in their human bodies, of clearing trauma, of contacting their, their star family, and all of these things. They each have their ways of doing that. And I find that to be the alchemy. And it's also, the alchemy is transmuting. It's, in the old stories, they're transmuting lead to gold, or, one metal to another. And that is the transmutation of the physical to the divine. It's sort of like the body to the spirit. It doesn't mean we're getting rid of our bodies or letting go of our bodies, but we are having them become more activated, more spiritually turned on, and more connected to everybody, to everything. We become more aware of our connectedness with oneness, because at the highest level, we are all from the same source. We are all the same one, having different experiences. So the Alchemy of Ascension is about, bringing all of these many different ways of transforming you from wherever you are in your process, because ascension is for everybody. No matter where you're starting or where you've gone or where you're going, there's always more. There's always another layer, and it's the infinite layers of ascension. So it's for everyone who is at all interested in activating themselves to a higher level.
Well, it's so captivating. Just when I try to talk to people like about you, and they're like, well, what are you doing again? And what's her name? Like your name is always so like, oh, I looked up a video on Waxela, and I'm like, no, it's Waxela. And like trying to explain what you do. And that was so perfect in just breaking down the Incension. And that makes so much more sense to me. Like from now on, in my own language, Waxela, it's Incension, not Ascension. And then the alchemy piece, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Could you just move toward the exploring the galactic origin piece, and then we'll do the becoming multidimensional. So we have the whole thing broken down, and now it's logic land.
I love it. This is why I asked you to do this interview too. You ask great questions, and you always kind of have this way of making it make sense, or helping me make sense of it. So I love that. So exploring our galactic origins, we've probably all heard the term starseed. And so the concept of a starseed is somebody who you have memories or awareness, or even just the feeling of connectedness to the stars, to maybe your Pleiadian, or maybe your Sirian, or Andromedan, or Orion, or Venusian, or there's so many stars out there. And we are galactic beings, meaning our DNA, our genetics come from many different origins, and many different star systems. And so naturally, we have within us these memories of being in other places, of being connected to other star systems. We might have been at a whole other galaxy or a whole other star before we came here. And there's a part of our being that remembers that. You good?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I have a teenager who's trying to talk to me, but
no problem.
So yeah.
Okay.
So sorry about that. I am a mother of 6 children, so there's, real life that happens in real time.
That's all right. It's, it's to be expected. And okay, so that's what a starseed is. So exploring our galactic origins. After the first summit that I did, I surveyed my viewers, and everybody said they really loved the starseed part, the galactic. There were a lot of questions about that and a desire to go deeper. So I decided to bring in exploring our galactic origins officially on this one. So many of the speakers will talk about galactic origins or their own memories of being in a certain star system, which are really frequencies that we can tune into. We don't have to leave our body and go to a different planet to experience our galactic origins. We can bring that experience in and really just have the experience as exploring from within here, from our bodies and from our hearts. When we open that portal of the heart, we can explore any dimension of reality, because the heart is a hologram of the whole. It's a very important part of my teaching. So I also have guided guided meditations where I take people into the heart. I do that in almost every one of my guided meditations because it's so important, and activate that diamond portal of the heart. But okay, so from there, that's exploring our galactic origins and becoming multidimensional. That's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. That's bringing more of our presence into the body, and then exploring as we bring our frequency up, more of the dimensions become available to us. When we're vibrating at a very third dimension, three-dimensional, third density, heaviness or denseness, then we're all about the logic of life, sort of like getting the bills paid, getting food on the table, the ABCs of life, which there is nothing wrong with that. And we all start there, right? Or we start somewhere. And then as we become more conscious and more aware and start to meditate and start to activate our multidimensionality, we start to explore consciousness more and more. We start to open up, we start to raise our frequency. And that happens within the question of asking, well, who am I and what am I about? And we find that all of the dimensions are actually layered. They're right here. And we can be in a meditation and explore, let's say, the Andromedan galaxy just by bringing our consciousness to that place. Or we can go remote viewing on Mars, or we can go anywhere and do anything, visit a loved one that's passed to the other side, who's not in the physical body anymore, talk to ascended masters or guides. That is becoming multidimensional. It's not that we're leaving our bodies, but we're becoming more aware from within the experience of being an embodied human or an embodied spirit in a human body. And we are able to then really explore the multidimensionality of our being.
Wow. Okay. That was so perfect. So everybody, you should probably understand by now. Oops, I said should. You can. You get to understand, a little bit of this alchemy of ascension, exploring our galactic origins. I just want to repeat it to myself, and becoming multidimensional, and just like really let it sink in. And I feel like now all of those elements, Waxela, like they mean something deeper, right? And I can feel that I'm actually embodying all of that right now after you discuss deeper meaning of what the title is, right? And so now I think let's explore what that means in like, how do we get to that place? So you have your course, and you have the Ascension Training, and then you have it's CLC-SEM. So could you go through that a little bit, because acronyms are very confusing for me. I'm very right-brained. I'm both, but whenever I see acronyms, I'm like, oh my gosh. I used to know somebody, and he would talk in the acronyms all the time, and I would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So can you shed some light on what that means, conscious empowerment and mastery, and share what happens in your courses. I think let's just dive right into it and get kind of all that down. And then, through all your talking, I have so many questions, and this is going to be like a 3-hour interview. No, I'm just kidding. It could be, but I kind of want to save those more toward the end, because I want to make sure we hit all your talking points that you really want people to understand.
Awesome. Okay, sure. So I will just start with Ascension Training, which
Yeah.
is it's my first level. I shouldn't call it first level. It's very high level, but it is the first course that if someone's going to join a course with me, Ascension Training is the first one that we go to.
Okay.
And so what that is really learning to raise your frequency excuse me, within the human body. Just like I mentioned, at the beginning, there are things that have to happen in order to have that multidimensional experience. The first thing is releasing and clearing your traumas. So if we're holding trauma and operating our lives through these filters of this happened to me and that happened to me and victimization and baggage and all of that, we're not going to have a very high spiritual multidimensional experience of life. What's going to happen is if we're carrying that around and living our lives through it, we're going to keep re-experiencing things that remind us of that because we're holding it in our energy field. So we got to get that out of our energy field if we want to have more fun and have a lighter experience of life. So I take the first few weeks are going through this process of releasing those things that are our filters that are keeping us from our true selves, more of our divine presence. And then as we start to, I call it excavate, we're excavating the dark seed, or excavating, and the dark seed is the core issue, the core program that you're walking around with that's running you. And usually it's in your subconscious. You don't know that it exists, but what you can do is look at your life, look at what's not working in your life, and it will show you what your core seed is about. And then once you know, it goes from where I call the subconscious, which is behind you, you can't work with it, to your consciousness, and you become aware of it, and then you can work with it. And I like to joke around with, in my trainings, like every time you get triggered, celebrate. Like, yay, I just got really upset about something. Because it goes from not being able to see it or recognize it, your subconscious, to being in front of you, like, oh, if you can see it, you can work with it. If you become aware of it, you can work with it. That is worth celebrating.
Well, I heard you say that. It was like a couple weeks ago. You're bringing that up in our group chat, and I was just like, oh, yes, somebody else who is talking about the light and the good that comes from out of the darkness and out of the shadow. Yeah. Always there's good and light. I have a friend that I went to grad school with. She calls me Positive Pony because I can always see the light in something that is tragic or dark or whatever. And it's so great that you are bringing that, like, giving it more light, right?
Yeah. So that's awesome. And so, yeah, it's not about spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is when you just skip all that trauma work, skip looking at the shadow, skip excavating the dark seed, and you just go for positivity. But that's not real positivity. In most cases, that's suppression. And so we don't want to do suppression. A lot of people have been doing suppression their whole lives. So we want to bring that stuff up and out, recognize it, work with it, look at it and say, oh, you know what? You're not so bad. You've just been running a program and doing your job. That's what you thought you were supposed to do to keep me safe. And now I can let you go. And then I can move on to the more fun stuff. So that's the kind of the first part.
Well, and it's so interesting to, like, okay, so in your own mind and in your own body, you're in this place, right? And you're running this program, and it takes another human, another being to come into your life and I always say, like, crack open. Every time I go through a meditation with you, my heart cracks open even more, right? And I can just feel, I can really feel the light coming out. But I think that it's really important to have this community, and this is my bigger point, is that you can't do that in solitary, right? Like, that is something that other people can see and tune in to you in different ways that you've never experienced before. And I think that's one of the things that's so powerful with you and the work that you do. You're just like, you bring these ideas up, and I'm like, oh my God, I never thought of that before. Like, I've read a lot of stuff, and I've studied this, and Waxela's now talking about this, and then Thaddeus and I have this great conversation about this thing that you're talking about that you see in other people, and it's just bringing, like you said, just bringing more light in. And I love that you are assisting that with other people, right? Like, it's just so powerful. And once you step into that ring of fire and face that darkness, man, there's so much light on the other side, and it's so scary. And like, the way that you can convey and, like, literally hold someone's hand through the process. It's, and I think safety is really important too, like a sacred space to feel the love and feel centered and grounded through that is so helpful. Because to just do all that on your own, that's scary.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So I wrote a book about this process. It's called The Love You Crave, which is speaking into that, like that loneliness that pretty much everyone on a spiritual path gets to a point of feeling this lonely, like nobody really gets me, and I want to be connected to the divine more, and yet I don't quite know how to get there.
Right.
And it's called The Love You Crave, a course in ascension, alchemy, and connection to the divine. And so I walk people through many of the phases that I teach in Ascension Training. But it's one thing to read a book by yourself and, have those experiences. The whole other thing to step into a group training where you're receiving these trainings, you have a guide, you have other people, you have question and answer as it comes up, and you have accountability, you have help getting through the hard parts, you have a coach, and all of that. So those are all elements of Ascension Training. Also, you talked about the surrender where you have to give that up. It can be very difficult. So it's helpful to have a guide through all of that process. And eventually, I'll make a long story short, where we get to is holding, raising our frequency, being able to hold more of the divine presence, activating the heart center. You get activated into these divine light tools. There are a number of them. They're spiritual tools that you have in your toolbox forever. Once you're activated into them, you just have to use them you can use them for manifesting, for clearing, for raising your frequency, for protection, for opening your heart center. And that is a huge part of it, is opening the heart and integrating the twin flame is one of the things that we study and learn about. Integrating is kind of like the other half of our soul, which is part of why we're missing this piece of us. So that when you integrate your twin flame, that other part of your soul, then you're no longer looking for other people to complete you. You're not looking for people in relationships to complete you, whether it's a spouse, a family member, a parent, a child, friends. You have that completion within yourself to draw on. And then every relationship is a contribution. And then it's not that you need that person. That person is just a joyful expression and experience to interact with. And then, then they're not triggering you when you're not trying to get something from the relationship. You're just having relationship and enjoying from there. So that's a huge shift that we make during Ascension Training as well. So that is,
I was to say, that's hard work though. I mean, and I don't mean to put like that's hard work into that, but it takes a lot of emotional energy to be vulnerable, to step into that, right? And that's what I've noticed, like in my own work. And I'm just like, oh, that's been a big shift. This was a big day, like, and it only gives you only get what you're ready for, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's how it's been just so like wonderful following you and flowing with you through this process too, is that you're so gentle with people. And I'm going to go back to that sacred space again too, Waxela. Like your voice, your everything that you encompass in the light. Like I feel like every time I teach my meditation class, I talk about you. And I'm like, you guys just like and this is what I say, like being around Waxela, like you just feel her light and you feel her love. And it's, I mean, and that's what I'm working towards, right? Like that's kind of the thing that we're all encompassing in through your work. So we just appreciate everything that you do. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I feel that from you as well. And I know that many people do, because you definitely have that, and everybody has that. It's really about where are you sourcing from. Yep. And I tell people that feel like, if I that feel overwhelmed by generosity, by giving too much. Yep. A lot of empaths feel like, I have to, create barriers or boundaries between me and other people, because otherwise I feel, you know, depleted by those interactions. But that's really about where you're sourcing from. So when you're sourcing from the divine and your divine source within, which we all are and we all have, it's really about gaining greater access to it and opening that doorway to it. When you're sourcing from there, you're in overflow. You're in abundance. You have that, you know, that spiritual generosity to give and give and give. And if you start to get depleted, you have the tools to go fill your buckets, proverbially, you know, like go do that and get recharged and then give again. And you receive more spiritual light from your generosity. So it just becomes this overflow that we're all sharing, which, you know, is just a beautiful thing to experience.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to take us back to left brain. And so we're talking about your courses and your training. Your you move us through, like, what would be the first thing that people do when they, you know, push the button and you start your training? What does that look like? Like, what's the first thing? What's the first phase? And then how do you move on through that? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. So with Ascension Training, you know, that was the first one. Actually, what it requires is first people have to get on a phone conversation with me, and we find out if it's a good fit for both. It's not a good fit for everybody. Like, you really have to be in a space of readiness for this. Like you said, it's not easy work. So, you know, if it's somebody that says, for instance, if someone comes to me and says, well, I want you to fix me or heal me, that's not how it works.
Like, go to the doctor.
Yeah, that's not how this works. No,
right.
I help you gain the tools to do this work for yourself. But I can give you, you know, guidance. I can do coaching. I can give you all access to these tools and activations and guide you in the right direction. But I cannot do the work for you. So that, you know, we just have to make sure we're on the same page. So we have a phone conversation. I kind of find out what someone's looking for. And then if it's right, then they have the opportunity. I will invite them into Ascension Training.
Okay.
And I don't take massive groups through. So it's kind of a limited number each time. You get a ton. I mean, this is where I really give my heart. I give everything I've got in Ascension Training, and I love it. You know, this course was designed by my life, by my, you know, I've been on a spiritual path for 30 years. I started when I was 19 and I just turned 49. So I've done a lot of work, you know, and it hasn't always been easy, but I've looked for the way to teach it in the way that's most effective, that takes the least amount of time, and is, in the grand scheme of things, the easiest possible way for someone else to do it based on my life experience. So that's my goal. And then to guide them through in a 12-week process. So I know, you know, you kind of asked to break it down. First step is to get registered.
Okay.
I will be starting another round in October. So Ascension Training, you go through the steps, you go through the modules. There are online modules, you read, you watch, we get on calls, there are coaching calls. So, you know, each week there's a new module and we go through the training of that module. A great way to prepare for that is to read my book, which is available on Amazon as ebook. And very, very soon I'm releasing the paperback, hopefully during this summit. So that'll be coming out any minute. I just need to do some little tweaks, but
so if people can't make the time frame, because I know, like, time frames are so crazy for everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
It's all recorded.
I was gonna say it's recorded, but does it feel like time is speeding up?
Yeah, we talk about that too. You know, yes, time is a construct of being third and fourth dimensional. It's really a fourth dimensional construct, but we can learn to be, I guess, in control of time. So for me, what I find is I do so much in a day. I know you do too. I can actually wake up in the morning and in my morning meditation say, I'm going to slow my time down today so that I can fit more in and do everything that I need to do in an easy way, that I don't feel rushed, that I don't feel annoyed by things taking too long. And it's an intentional, now this is getting into conscious life creation. So you asked about those letters, CLC, SEM.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
That is the second half of my program. That's new. I'm just adding it on
Oh,
this next round. So that will be an additional 3 to 4 months, conscious life creation,
okay.
self-empowerment, and mastery. So in that, we take everything that we learned in Ascension training, those first 12 weeks, which are never done, by the way. Once you
Right.
get these tools, you know, you get triggered by, just because you learned how to deal with your triggers and you've
Yeah.
excavated the dark seed doesn't mean you'll never get triggered again. I'm
For
sorry to
sure.
say. But the cool thing is, now that you have these tools for dealing with those triggers, you get over them so fast. It's like,
Perfect.
oh, look, there's a trigger. Oh, that's coming from my dark seed. I better pull that root out, you know? And so you have to keep practicing.
Yeah,
It's never over, but it gets very quick to release.
for sure.
And
Can I just interject real quick?
yes,
The
yes.
last thing that you just spoke about, when you get to see the trigger and when you're in the moment and you see that and you're like, oh my God, it's my trigger. That in itself is so empowering because
Yeah.
you're able to identify it, right? And you
Yeah.
can see it. And I just took the next step from identifying those to now I'm able to use my third chakra or fifth chakra, throat chakra, excuse me, and verbalize that. So when my teenage son does something, I can look at him with love and pure, radiant energy, and I say, "Babe, that's a trigger for me. Could you please try a different approach, right?" And
Mm-hmm.
and we can move through it, and it just feels so nurturing because
Mm.
my yin side has been so kind of shut down for so long, and I'm able to like push over to my yin and go, wait a minute, I'm a single mom, and I think that part of it is really important too. Is like I've had to float back and forth between the yin and yang of parenting, and there's another book in there somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can now identify that trigger, and now I can speak it, and I can
Yeah.
move through it, and I think that there's, and like you said, it's so empowering and interesting in itself that it's so worthy of exploring that, right? And
It
that's
really is,
yeah,
really is. And that is part of self-empowerment and mastery.
yes,
So, you know, really, yeah, the next level of after Ascension training, it's taking everything that you've learned and, you know, we're raising our frequency, we're getting into the heart center, we're using these tools of divine light and ascending our frequency within the body. We're meditating, we're activating the portal of the heart, we're opening up to higher and higher levels of awareness and consciousness and working with interdimensional beings and our guides and our higher selves and integrating all of that. Well, then Ascension training ends, you know, at the end of 12 weeks, people want more. So I'm bringing like the next level course in. It's been, people have requested it every time I do Ascension training. So I'm so excited. And it's really the course I've been putting together for 30 years, but I'm finally just putting all the best of the best stuff. So once you've cleared out enough of that baggage and you're ready to go, you can become masterful with time. You begin to realize, okay, all of this life is my own creation. Everything that happens, I put there, you know, and therefore I can put something else there. I can change it. I can operate differently. I can manifest objects, you know, at will. You can learn to do all of these things. And so you become masterful. It's really mystical training. You become masterful and adept at some of these techniques, which you might call this, I call myself a galactic shaman because of this, because you learn to work with these galactic principles with, you know, with the laws of the universe. Many of the universe laws are not bound by earth law or human law, you know, they override that. And so if you can tune into them and find yourself a conscious being and start to practice at these higher levels, and you have people to practice with, you're getting accountability, you're getting people to, you know, to talk to and bounce ideas off with, and a guide through all of it. And we're all doing this work together. It's just like my greatest joy to be able to work on self-empowerment and mastery and conscious life creation with a group of people. And we'll be using our imaginations. We'll be consciously creating some of those things that we want to experience, but we'll also sometimes just be raising our frequency and allowing the universe to input the thing that's most beneficial for us. in our divine design.
Cool. That is so fantastic. So like, okay, if you're watching this and you're not writing down everything Waxela is saying, you're crazy. Seriously, I feel like I'm back in my art history class at my undergrad. I literally, like, everything, I was so fascinated by everything he was saying. My pen never left my paper. And I've got 3 pages of notes just from.
You can always listen to the replay.
Yeah, right? So, oh my gosh. Okay. So one of the things that you have brought up is the multidimensional piece. And I know you've spoken about Anubis and how you work with Anubis. And that has been something that's come into my own practice as well, which is super cool. And the connection with my dog, which we talked about in our last training session, which is so crazy. He's just like, it's almost like there's a little kid inside his little suit of disguised as a dog. Like, it's so bizarre. Anyway, but Anubis, I know, like, he's the canine, right? I mean, Jackal.
Yep, Jackal. Also, I have a woman named Star Wolf actually she's launching on September 9th. She'll be the first one. In the Alchemy of Ascension season 2, and she talks about Anubis. She wrote a oracle deck that about Anubis, like the Anubis oracle deck, and she says that Anubis came to her and said, "I am the ancestor wolf." So, you know, there's this idea, it could be a jackal, could be a wolf. I think it's a dog hybrid, but what I've experienced Anubis as is a race. There are a race of beings that look like Anubis. And for anyone that doesn't know of Anubis, in Egyptian mythology, Anubis is the jackal-headed god that oftentimes is pictured with a scale. And on the scale, on one side is a heart and one side is a feather, a human heart and a feather. And he's also known as the god of the underworld. He meets people as they are, as they die and go to the next world. But it's really not so ominous as all that. What he is a guide, an ascension guide to help you raise your frequency. And the teaching of the heart and the feather is about during this life, so at the point of your death, of your laying down your human body, if your heart is lighter than a feather, what that means is, have you given up your resentments, your baggage, your traumas, your victimization, all of those things that weigh you down and are heavy in your heart? And have you ascended your heart consciousness? Have you ascended into loving people regardless of their flaws, and generosity and forgiveness, and, you know, and letting life be what it is without judging it so much? Then your heart is lighter than a feather, and you're able to cross into the heavenly realms after this lifetime. It's not about being judged. It's about, did you do the work while you're here? And on the next level, it's not even about the next life. It's about this life right now. Those multidimensional experiences of life are available right here and now. And it's, if your heart is lighter than a feather, yes, you can experience being a multidimensional human.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm like in a trance of you right now. I'm serious. Like, I just wrote down, I was like drawing. Oh my gosh. That is so beautiful. The scales with the heart and the feather, and like my artist mind is like going crazy. My imagination is like, I'm gonna have to like make a drawing after this interview. Okay, so the Anubis part, Star Wolf will move into that during the summit. So, oh my God, I'm so excited about that. I do want to talk about the Kundalini and the shamanic breath work.
Okay.
Because that was something I was very surprised by, the shamanic breath, and the feeling that comes about. Can you talk about like what is happening with the body, right, during the shamanic breath? And like, is that okay to kind of drill down that piece of it? Because I think that, like, if I were to not know much about you and your work, and then all of a sudden you're like, here, do the shamanic breath, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, this is really intense, and I'm super open and empathic and all of that, right? So it's very powerful for me. But could you break that down for everybody so they understand, like, why do we do the breath work? Why is it important? Why do you go, right? Like, why do you do that so fast? And then the Kundalini piece, if you could just follow up with like, why am I having an orgasm when I'm doing the Kundalini, Waxela? I was going to say I'm just kidding, but I'm actually not, because it's so powerful. But, you know, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I've actually been doing Kundalini yoga for over 10 years, just on my own. And I've recently just started, you know, working with other people with the Kundalini yoga. And I mean, at the end of the session, people are crying, and it's so powerful. So why Kundalini? And then shamanic breath. So those are my next two questions.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
And so just to preface that,
Yeah.
so Heidi and Thaddeus are in the Launchpad membership. So for people that, you know, like a lot of times, I don't have access to Ascension training, or there are periods in between, or if I've already started one and someone wants to still do work with me, they can jump into the membership. The membership is year round, and you have access to the shamanic breath in the membership. And it's a great way to stay in touch with me, to have access to the work that I do, but also community, which is so important. And you can interact. There's a community forum there. You can get on the live calls twice a month. And so in that, as well as in Ascension training, actually in all my work, I include the shamanic breath work, which and I'm just calling that, it's breath work that I've put together. It's, you know, I think Starwolf does shamanic breath work that she trademarked, so I don't want to like step on her toes, because it's not her process. And what I will say is I have done many different people's breath works through the 30 years that I've been practicing my spiritual path. And what I did with this type of breathwork course is I put together the elements of breathwork that I found most transformational, and I put them together in a way. Actually, I'll be honest, I was in someone else's breathwork course, and my guidance really just came to me and showed me, like, if you put this and this and this together and then do this, this is what's going to happen. And I'm like, oh, I got to try that. And so I started practicing it, and I started putting it together, and then I started offering it to my classes, and they love it. And they say things like, oh my gosh, you know, I just had a release of 10 years worth of baggage in one session, or I just overcame something that I've been working on for years, or I just had an orgasm, or whatever, you know, like depending on where you are on your journey. But what you're doing, and I'm not I'm not a sciencey type of person. That's not my realm. And there are so many people out there that are wonderful at describing, you know, exactly what's happening in the body and exactly why we're doing this. So I will give you a very general outline of why we do the breath work and what happens. But my why is that it liberates energy. So when you're having trouble mentally releasing a trauma, when you're having trouble mentally forgiving someone that has hurt you, when you're having trouble letting go of something that happened in childhood, or even a pain that's a chronic pain in your body, or some heavy energy that you just can't seem to let go of, breath work bypasses the mind, and it bypasses the emotion, and it just goes straight to the trauma, and it helps you release it without having to think it out. Now, sometimes people will have images come through, and they'll know, oh my gosh, I just released something from when I was 2, or I just released a date rape from when I was a teenager, or I just released a trauma from whatever, you know. And sometimes you'll know, and sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll just come away feeling better. But what it's doing, it's, you know, on a physical level, yes, it's oxygenating you. We do breath holds so that your body can absorb the oxygen that you just breathed in excessively. And then we do this Kundalini breath where we're pushing you're pushing the energy up, the breath work up and out in the torus field. There's a torus energy field around the body, and that is sending that energy out from the base of your spine through the top of your head. So there's this whole process that, in my mind, together, it all comes together to create a massive release of whatever you are ready to release. You know, you're not gonna release something that you're not willing or ready to. So it's going to work with you where you are when you practice it. And it's just going to help you go faster on your path, whether you're trying to accomplish something or manifest something or release something, or you're trying to get over yourself in some way, or you want to, like just create a new life for yourself. It gets you over yourself. And so that's my why and why we do this breath work. When I included the breath work and started having my Ascension Training clients, students do breath work with the Ascension Training, they got the concepts faster. Everything went faster. They got their liberation, their freedom so much more. And so that's the real why for me. And anyone that wants to know about breath work, go look it up. It's fascinating to learn the physical stuff about it.
And the way that you do it though, Waxela, it's so powerful, it's intense, but it's so gentle at the same time. And like for me, because I'm so empathic, and I think for a lot of other women as well that I've heard around, in our circle of friends and stuff, that some of the more aggressive breath patterns and holds and stuff, like it's so intense, it can really crack you apart in places that maybe you're not ready for. And the way that you work it and the way you've designed it, it's gentle, but it's still powerful. So I mean, I really appreciate the way that you put it together. And I don't know, Thaddeus and I we talk about it every day. I mean, we do it every day, right? And if we don't get to it in the morning, usually it's in the morning, we'll do it in the afternoon. And the energy or the calm, it's almost like it reads you, right? Like it's preparing you for whatever that you need. So it's like, do I need energy right now, or do I need calm? And it'll just give you what was present. So anyway, I literally, like, I cannot say enough about the process. The amount of time that you have to devote for it too is like 30 minutes. And you guys, like, it's my favorite 30 minutes of the day. I'm not kidding. It's really good stuff. Yeah. And the way your body feels, like the chemical process that happens is so, I'm going to say bizarre. For me, it's very bizarre and intense because it's so
tingly and light. Yeah.
And actually, like when you listen to a song and you're like, oh, I really like how this person says this. I love in your breath work when you're like, yes. I don't know why your voice is so beautiful, and you're just like, yes. And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. It took me 4 times to be able to get the hold, especially the exhale, which is it's my sticky spot. And the Kundalini, I don't have a really problem with, as I said before, but the breath holds are like, that last one it's so, I don't like, difficult isn't the right word. It's challenging. And I, it's interesting to kind of understand why maybe, but maybe not, I don't know, but learning more about yourself, right? And how you talk through it. And just when you want to give up, what Waxela's like, don't give up, like, feel it, listen to your body. And you're like, yeah. I feel like I'm a cheerleader right now.
Okay. Oh, wow. It's fun to hear you talk about it because mostly I send these out as recordings. So I don't watch people do the breath work much in person. Once in a while, people do it in person, but it's fun to like hear your feedback.
Yeah. And Thaddeus is kind of the opposite of me. He's very stoic, and he's just like, doing everything kind of properly. And I'm like moving around in Kundalini stuff, and I'm kind of dancing. And I don't know, I just have fun with it. So, okay. So let's see, where are we? Kundalini. Oh, did we get to the Kundalini part? I don't think we did.
Well, there is a Kundalini part of the breath work. So what that is you're sort of holding and squeezing the breath at the base of the spine and allowing it to flow up your spine. A lot of this is visual and mental, and imagining this breath is coming up your spine, and it's enlightening you, and it's expanding you, and then it's coming out the top in a release, and so it is very orgasmic in a way. And it's about, it's at the end of the 3-part breath, the intense part. And so it's kind of like this, yes, I've just done this amazing thing, and now I'm feeling the beauty of what I'm doing for my body. And so it's this expansion period that happens. And I feel like that's the part where your energy is just like building and building and building. And then for some time, at some point there's a release. And so that can feel really good. And it's interesting because I've had some people start this breath work. They're like, I hate breath work. I've never liked breath work. Breath work's terrible. And then after practice, I will just, during Ascension training, I'll like coax them, just try, just keep trying and try it again. And then inevitably by the end, almost everybody's like, oh my God, I love this breath work now.
I know, it's so magical. And like, even there are no words that can describe unless you do it, right? It's like one of those things you have to experience it to really understand like what we're talking about. So I highly recommend everybody sign up.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can get that in the membership as well as Ascension Training.
Okay, perfect. Let's move into the importance of the heart and activating the diamond light portal. Can you really let us in on like Waxela and you're very specific with your words. You are never like just saying stuff. Everything I've noticed that comes out of your mouth as very intentional, love, backed, beautiful magic. And I say to people when I'm talking about you, this sounds super weird, but I say like everything she says is dripping with magic. That's what I say. And they look at me and they're just like transfixed on me, like, oh, what is she talking about? I'm like, you just have to be there and like do it, like, and hear what you're saying. So really let us in, Waxela, on what do you mean by diamond heart portal, and what does that, what does that do for us?
Yeah. So, my background, I'll just start there a little bit. My background was all about pineal activation. My Instagram's pineal activation light. And I had that, from the time I was a kid, and being a psychically open, empathic child, caused me to have experiences that caused me to shut down. Right. So I did close off my heart, and my empathic nature, just through being human, it's a natural response to life on planet Earth in third density. And so, it took a long time for me to open my heart back up. And I had a heart opening experience that, where it really just blast open. And I can honestly say I just got it. Like I just got what it is to be human in a new way. And that's what had me go from wanting to get out, from wanting to go out and explore and not be in this body that's uncomfortable and dense and difficult so much, to wanting to be in this body more and activate it and bring my divine presence in, bring more of myself in, and get to express through the heart. Because when your heart is open, it feels good to be human. It feels good to be in a human body when you're not looking and watching out for the bad guys or the negative stuff to come at you. And when you're just open and like, I don't care, bring it, I'm in joy, I'm in love, I'm grateful to be here, I'm in my body and my heart is open and I'm just overflowing with gratitude, then life changes. And so to me, the importance of having your heart open is life and death, basically, or living life in a dead way versus living life multidimensional and alive and mystical and magical. It's really huge. So having your heart open, to me, is like the most valuable part of the work that I do, is helping people open up the portal of the heart. And so the way that came to me, teachably, is the diamond light portal of the heart, the infinitely faceted diamond light of the heart, which we can open up as a portal. First of all, I activate you into it. If you're in my membership or if you're in Ascension Training, it's not me. I don't have to activate you. What I mean by I activate you into it is basically I bring your awareness that it exists. I open up your mind to have an awareness that you have this facet, this infinite light in your heart that is a portal. And the heart is a hologram of the whole. The heart contains everything that is contained in the divine, because a hologram contains all of the whole within it. It's like the drop of the ocean, but we have within us everything to access our multidimensional divinity. And what that requires is opening up the portal of the heart. And I found that the diamond light of the heart, the diamond light portal of the heart, is a way that we can get in and open up from there. And so any multidimensional exploring that we do, anywhere that we want to go, any astral travel, we're going in, we're ascending into astral travel. We're never vulnerable when we're traveling through the heart. And honestly, like, I've done astral travel. It can be scary. You don't know like what you might encounter. And that doesn't mean that it can't be scary to travel in the heart, but at least that whatever you encounter within your heart is you, and it can't hurt you. It can consume you, but it won't, you won't lose yourself, because you are yourself and you're within yourself, and you're expanding yourself by doing the work from within. I know some of these words might be strange, but hopefully that's helpful. And for me, I mean, just getting to see people activate their hearts, it changes their lives. And that's, my greatest service is to help people have that activation so that they can live from generosity. Because when you're living with an open heart, you know that you are divine. You know that your divine source is coming from within you. It's not something we grasp for or reach for out here. It's who we truly are. And we get to create through our heart center the life that we desire and the relationships that we desire. And, whatever we want to experience in our lives, we get to do that when our heart is open, and we get to do that in such a loving, beautiful, connected way. And, you hear these stories about people that maybe worked their whole lives, became multimillionaires, and then got really depressed and, either killed themselves or gave everything away and went on a spiritual journey. It's because it's not having things that makes us happy. It's having an open heart and being connected and having that divine connection active that makes us happy. So you can have nothing or you can have everything, but if your heart is open, that's what makes it all worth it. And that's what brings joy and gratitude into your life. And it really has nothing to do with the outside stuff, but then it just becomes, your whole life is just a fun creation. That's conscious life creation. So when you create with an open heart, you create wonderful things in the world and you get to share.
Oh, I'm just like, I'm like in a trance from listening to you. Oh, okay. I kind of got lost for a second. Okay, so something that came up when you were talking, what's the inception point of the Diamond Light Portal? Because I've read a ton of books, I listened to a ton of podcasts, I'm consuming, knowledge in every aspect, and I've not heard someone define it quite like that. Is it a download you got, or is it something that you heard from a shaman in the rainforest, or like my imaginations are going. So could you shed a little light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Wonderful question. Thank you. So it is a spiritual technology. Let's see. It came into my life in 3 ways a few years back, where one was a program I was in that talked about the diamond light of the heart. I don't think that was the first one, though. I think the first one was a trip that I went on. This was so interesting. I met a woman. She's in Mexico. Madeline is her name. And she had seen me. I went to Mexico City to do Lucia Light sessions for a retreat and do a retreat there. And she couldn't come, but she was in Mexico, and she invited me for the next time I came to come to her, to come and meet her and do work with her on her Ascension Center, which wasn't, it's not even built yet, but at least at that time it wasn't. Maybe it is now. But I went there, and she's like, let's do the diamond light of the heart. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I can activate you into the diamond light of the heart. I'm like, yeah. And what was really funny is that here's this woman I've never met in the physical before. and we were just soul sisters, like star sisters. When I looked at her profile, she's like calling herself all the same things that I call myself, and the same language, even though we speak different languages. And when we get together, it's really this like, you know, like very galactic soul connection. Her boyfriend came over when I gave them both a Lucia Light session when I was there with her in her house in Mexico. It was Via de Bravo. And after the light session, she and I started talking just like, I mean, I don't know what we were, almost like another language. And he was just sitting there listening, and he's like, you two, now I get it. There's something else going on, you know? He's like, I don't know anything that you two just said. And he's bilingual, you know, but he's like, no, you guys, something else is going on over there. And what is star language? You know, we just got each other. Yeah. And so that was so fun. And so she was the first one to give me the diamond light activation and take me on an inner journey. And then from there, I was working with Adama, who is the high priest of Telos, which is a city under Mount Shasta, an inner earth city. And so I was working with him and Sananda, who's an ascended master, and the two of them helped me understand this technology in a teachable format so that I could bring it into my training, so that I could bring it into my breath work, so that I could bring it in and really activate people to really get their hearts open. So it is what they call, and so I didn't read this in a book. This was like all in practice and from my own guidance, my own guides. They helped me see how to activate people's diamond light of their heart as a portal that they can travel into and then have that expansion from within. Now, this isn't unique to me. Don't think that I'm special because I talked to my guides and got this technology. This is something that is being brought onto the planet, I think probably by many, and this is how I received it. So it doesn't mean that, like, some people might write and say, oh, but so-and-so is teaching that, or so-and-so's teaching. Great, you know, I feel like when these technologies come in, they come in for the whole planet, and the people that are open to receiving them are the people that receive them and share them, right? So I don't want anyone to be like, oh, the diamond portal of the heart, that belongs to Waxela. No, that's something that I was activated into, and I activate others into. I share the technology. I don't own the technology. Okay.
Got
So I just want to be clear about that. It's not like it's mine.
Yeah, I still think you're special.
Thank you. So are you.
So I mean, basically, you're the conduit through which the diamond light activation is working through, right? I mean,
yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can you back up just a little bit, Sananda? Could you talk about that? Because I feel like that's very apropos for thanks, babe. For who you are, and could you just quickly? I know time is a thing, so I'll just let you.
Ooh, that's a big one. So Sananda is one of my primary guides. I've never said this out loud before, I don't think, but here we go. So I'm like, I just saw a vision of it. Should I say this? So I took the last name Sananda when I traveled with a shaman in Hawaii. If anyone's read my book, you know that there were 3 years that I spent being training with a shaman and practicing with a shaman and working with a shaman who was a walk-in, who was also my twin flame. And he was from the lineage of Sananda, or is from the lineage of Sananda, as am I. And what that means is it's a soul lineage, So that doesn't, again, I don't want people to be like, oh, you're special, because there are probably thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of Sanandas walking around. They're just not going by the name Sananda, right? It's a lineage, a soul lineage. So I became aware of that connection. I became activated in my connection to Sananda as a guide, is one of my primary guides. And so Sananda also is very much about opening the heart and activating the heart and doing the heart work. It's not an accident that he's my primary guide and I'm all about the heart, right? So Sananda, I was walking the beach one day, And, you know, just he was there with me, and I was kind of asking him about, you know, how are we related? Kind of like the question you just asked me.
Yeah.
You know, who am I to you, or who are you to me? And he showed me a version of myself with a crown on my head, and he said, we're married, you're my queen. And I'm like, oh, that's why my last name's Sananda. But again, I don't want that to mean like it's just me. It's just like that's the generosity of Sananda. Like he's like, you're so special, you're my queen. He would say that to anyone that probably, you know, that was working with him at that level. But I just got his love and acceptance as if, not, he didn't say it as if, he's like, we're married. You know, maybe not in a 3D way. But that was the level, like we're twin flames in a sense, was the energetic transmutation or whatever transmission that I understood. And like these like the embracing. So Sananda as an ascended master is just so available, I guess, and so loving and so willing to work with those who want to work with him. And he just showed me that level of, you know, not like, I'm not your guru, I'm your partner, you know, is really the essence of that. So and I think that also speaks into a really important piece, is that in any spiritual training, especially now, it is not a time to have gurus. Don't have someone that you put on a pedestal and say, this person has the answers and I don't. You know, you don't want to put anyone on a pedestal. Someone puts me on a pedestal, I will disappoint you. Like, you know, I will fall. So I'm human, you know, I'm a spiritual teacher and I'm human. And the same is true of all spiritual teachers. So it's important to take spiritual teachers as guides, just like you know, I have guides, I have spiritual teachers, I have non-physical teachers, interdimensional teachers, but they even are telling me all the time, don't put us on a pedestal. The Anubis beings, when they came to me, I asked them, I'm like, why can't I feel connected to you in my heart? And they said, because you're putting us on a pedestal as higher than you. We're your brothers. They said, we're your brothers. And when I'm like, oh, you're my brothers, my heart opened to them. And so it's like, oh, you're my brothers, you know? And then I just got them at a whole different level. And that's the time, like, I'm your sister, you know, not your guru. And it's so important right now to get, you are divine. Every single person is equally divine. We are all connected. We are all one being at the highest level. We are here to help each other and activate each other and bring this information to each other. And you get to be as ascended as you want to be. Just practice, you know. I've been practicing every day for 30 years. So yeah, I have a little, you know, I've achieved a little more in my spiritual path than a lot of people, but I put my work in, you know, and so now I can share it. And that doesn't make me better than or higher than, you know, and that's very important to understand. It's all in you, and you don't need 30 years to get where I did. You know, you need, it can happen in an instant if you just choose to transform and believe and know that that's who you are. So.
Oh, that was so magical. So I just recently watched the Ram Dass movie on Gaia TV, and he had a guru, Maharaji Ji, right? And so just understanding what that means, and I think how you just dispelled that for people, because in my own heart, in my own mind, I'm always kind of like, oh, like what is the guru thing? Like, I don't understand. Does everybody have one? Do some people get some? Are some people more special, right, than others? And then he explained in his book, Ram Dass's book, he explained that if a guru comes into your life, that just means you're ready for that person, and you never seek them. You never, like, I mean, it's a cosmic relationship that is brought to you, right? And exactly. And the moment you look for it, it's going to be further away, you know, like then you're not on the right path, right? So, but I think that how you just explained, you know, your relationship with Sananda, and Oh my gosh, Washayla, that was really powerful. I'm a little
Mm,
captivated by your story. I had not heard that before, and I mean, it's so at our dinner table we talk about humility and humbleness and gratitude and all those things, and how you're talking about, like, other people are your guides and your teachers and other beings and dimensional beings. I was thinking too, like my children, my 17-year-old has been my greatest teacher, and I don't put him on a pedestal. That's not how it works, right? So that was really powerful. So thank you for explaining that and how that feels.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And just to one more thing around
yeah,
that
yeah.
is what I tell my clients, my students in Ascension Training, Conscious Life Creation, is you put me here.
Yeah.
You put me in front of you. I'm not better than you. I'm your
Right.
teacher because you put me here, because I am you. I'm a version of yourself teaching you something that you wanted to remember. So I'm really just you reminding you of what you already are.
That is so perfect, right? You're just a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Okay. I feel like I know you so much better. I just got goosebumps too. So I love that. How are
That's
we doing on time?
yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
Okay. I know. Can
Yeah,
we just sit and talk all day, please? um,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So let's go back to Logic Land. So if people want to get a hold of you, should we kind of move into that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
When all that. Okay.
Yeah, so in the context of the Alchemy of Ascension season 2, which is happening now, if you're watching this in September, um, there are 3 levels that you can get that course, and some of them you can buy the whole thing, and then you automatically get a call with me. But if you don't want to buy the course and you just want to watch it day by day, you can do that too, and that's all free. You can schedule a call. The only thing is I get so many calls scheduled. You will probably first meet with a member of my team, which is totally fine, on your first call, unless you buy one of the packages. Then I make myself available for those calls. But just for logistics and how much time I have as one human being, I have to do it this way. So I do the individual calls that people buy the packages for, and the people that just want to call and want to talk about Ascension training and possibly like getting like applying for it, or being in it, and you want to know more, or maybe you just want to like learn something more about working with me. It's actually what if someone that you will talk to will be someone that has worked with me, so you can schedule a free call with her, and then if you want to move forward, you can get a call with me on your second call. So that's kind of the way we're doing it, just to logistically make that work right now during the summit, because there's
Okay.
only one of me.
Perfect.
Even though I'm multidimensional, haven't figured out how to clone myself for phone calls
Right.
yet.
Oh, that's funny. Well, that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, yeah. After the first summit, I had 100 calls booked, and that I lived. I mean, that was all I did for
Yeah.
like a month. It was a lot. So,
Oh my gosh.
um,
That's a lot of energy to keep giving, right? I mean, that's a lot for a human being.
well, and producing a summit is no small feat. I actually, this one I'm going to have 28 speakers. I'm so proud. What, 29, I think. I'm so proud of all of them, and just this beautiful body of work. 29 speakers speaking about their incredible work, giving amazing tips on how to ascend, on how to connect, on how to become multidimensional. I mean, it is a powerful body of work, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of every single person that's on it. So for anyone that is like, yeah, I want to watch them day by day, but I want to own this series going forward, you can actually for $88 get the whole season and own that, and go like watch them 12 times, because there some of these you're going to want to see. And the free gifts that people are giving away, some of them are mind-blowing, like one of them is worth, in one case, I think someone's giving away like a $500 free gift, a $700. I mean, like the free gifts are amazing. They also, many people are selling an offer as well, which are very powerful offers. But I mean, this body of work is something I'm so proud of with this summit. So I highly recommend for anyone that that's watching to at least watch whatever you can live. And if it speaks to you, if you miss some of them and you want more time, buy the package for $88, or you can get a higher package. The VIP packages include, you can either get 6 months or a year of membership in Launchpad, which tomorrow is in. And then they can, you know, get a deeper experience of working with me. And then if someone wants to go into Ascension Training, you actually get coupons off of your Ascension Training price if you buy those higher level packages too. So
awesome. And so is all of that on your website?
That will all be linked to this, and you'll be able to easily access that. So I'll put that on the speaker page here. So, and I'll also put, Heidi, I'll put your Primal Hacker website. Oh my gosh, there's so much great stuff. And watch for the interview with her, because you will want to hear more from tomorrow.
Yeah, there's so many play on words with that name, right?
I know, it's fun. I love it. So I think we could probably wrap it up there. The main thing that I love for people to know is that the reason I do this work, the reason I do all of this, is because I want everyone to know that we are a community of light, and you do not have to do this work alone. And there are so many people, and we're all ascending together, and we are a big community of light workers, and we're all on this journey. And, you know, use the resources of all of these wonderful people doing this work together to know that you are absolutely not alone on this journey.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Waxela.
Thank you.
Pleasure to talk to you. I've learned so much. This is just, I mean, it's been amazing. I can't even imagine what the summit's going to be like.
It's going to be fun. And you were an amazing interviewer. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. So.
All right.
Okay.
We'll sign off from there. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Thank you.